Well, good evening to all, and I would like to call this meeting to order and welcome everyone, all members of council that are joining us both in person and virtually this evening, and to all members of the public that are joining us, and our staff that are in attendance tonight, and our planner, Megan Titternick. So thank you very much to everyone. This meeting has been called this evening to hear an application under the Planning Act that requires a public meeting and for council or the Committee of Adjustment to consider any decisions related to those relevant applications. I would like to indicate that meetings of council are live streamed on the Township's official website in accordance with the live streaming and virtual participation of meetings policy. By attending this meeting, attendees and participants are consenting to their image, voice, and comments being recorded and available for public viewing on the Township's website. Do any members of council have a pecuniary interest or general conflict of interest or potential of any agenda item that we have this evening? Okay, thank you for that. We will now entertain a motion to adjourn our regular council meeting and open the public meeting to review zoning bylaw amendment Medibide Holdings, Inc. Deputy Mayor and Councillor Hickey, all in favor of this motion? And that is carried. I thank you for that. Okay. Yep. So I would like to call this public meeting to order and ask if any members of council have a pecuniary interest or potential conflict of interest with this agenda. Seeing none, we are here this evening to hear the application, and the purpose of this is a public meeting is to consider the changing the zoning on the property described as concession LRE Part Lot 8 Colborne, and the 911 is 82522 Blue Water Highway. This public meeting is a requirement that it be held under the Planning Act, which requires a council hold at least one public meeting and that the proper notice be given. Notice was given on the 18th day of September and subsequently recirculated on October 17th, 2024. So at this time, I would welcome our planner, Megan Titternick, to address council on this matter at this time. Please, Megan.
Good evening, Council. Just one second while I share my screen with you. Okay, so good evening, Mayor and members of Council. Tonight we are here to talk about an application that was made for a zoning bylaw amendment located at 82522 Blue Water Highway. Here we have an aerial photo of the site. Historically, you may know this site to be the location of the mini putt course across from Point Farms Provincial Park. The subject property is designated agriculture and natural environment in the official plan and is zoned AG4, which is agriculture small holdings special zone, and NE1, which is natural environment. The existing special zone will allow for a general store, a gasoline bar, takeout restaurant, propane sales, as well as the miniature golf course. In 2019, an additional zoning application was approved to allow for the sale of alcohol at the general store and one portable food outlet establishment with setback requirements of 30 meters from the front and side lot lines. So here we can see the proposed site plan for the subject property. So existing building A, and this might be a little bit tricky to see, but it is the most westerly building here. That is currently a duplex, and it is proposed to be a fourplex. To date, a design has not been provided, so we're not sure exactly how that's going to look, but that's kind of the proposal there. It would also see the existing two-car garage turn into storage units. The existing storefront business is proposed to remain there. Future office building is also proposed. Then we have two new buildings, which are D and E, and they are the larger two kind of in the middle here, if you can see my cursor. They are proposed to be contractor buildings with about 4 units in each building. The 3 buildings to the east, labeled F, G, and H, they are proposed to be self-storage units. There's also the stormwater management pond up here to the northeast of the development, and there will be a pipe going out to the creek that is on the east side of the property. You will see the large plantation. I'll just go back 1 second here. So you can see the creek over to the east side. And then we also have a large plantation here. There is no development proposed in this plantation, just for future reference. Here you can see the site conditions as they are today. The mini putt course has been removed. You know, it's moved down the road. And it doesn't appear that much is occurring on the site currently. So we did have some neighbor comments when we circulated the application. One neighbor was concerned with lights being left on 24 hours a day. You know, this infringes on privacy. There's more traffic to the site with the contractors and self-storage units. And there could be a negative impact on their property values. So we did have agencies comment as well. MVCA attended a site visit with myself as well as the county biologist. They didn't have concerns from a natural hazard perspective. They did specify that a permit would be required for the outlet of the stormwater management into the small creek there. ACW staff reviewed the site plan and noted that a site plan agreement would be required and that development charges will apply. BM Ross provided comments on behalf of the municipality related to grading, drainage, and stormwater management. They provided comments with regards to the stormwater management pipe discharge should be modified to minimize erosion impacts into the creek, and that will be part of the permit with Maitland Valley Conservation Authority as well. The structure of the gravel parking area around the storage building should also be noted on the plan. Those are just some of their comments. We also received comments from the Ministry of Transportation. They are noting that all buildings and structures need to be a minimum of 14 meters from the highway. They are proposing to remove the existing northerly entrance, so you can only have one entrance onto Highway 21, and that other permits will be required, things like building and land use permits, entrance, if they need sign permits. They had a list there of things that they would also require. The Huron County biologist provided the following information and comments. So they were encouraged to naturalize the stormwater management pond with native plants. No development is to occur within 15 meters of the mature plantation that I showed you there. And that the pipe from the stormwater management pond, there is kind of a clearing to the north of it. So they had suggested that to mitigate some of the impacts to this plantation, that perhaps the pipe should be located in that area so that we keep as many trees as possible. So then the Planning Act. So the rezoning is a result of wanting to construct, you know, the office building, self-storage units, contractor buildings, and convert an existing duplex into a fourplex. The current zoning permits a range of uses, and it's mostly focused on serving the traveling public and recreational visitors to the Point Farms Provincial Park. The owner, when I asked if they wanted to remove some of the existing special zones, they did not want to do so. They didn't want to limit the potential of the property in the future. It is the planning department's opinion that the special zone should reflect the current uses of the property, not past or potential future uses. So this application to permit an increase in lot density for the establishment of a fourplex, storage units, and contractor buildings doesn't necessarily have regard for all matters of provincial interest While the development would provide a range of housing options, the proposal for a rural cluster of residential, commercial, and industrial uses disconnected from existing settlement areas isn't good planning, in our opinion. It doesn't have regard for appropriate location of growth and development. So with that, it's not in compliance with the Planning Act. At the time of writing this report, we were still using the provincial policy statement of 2020. Later on in tonight's agenda, we will see that we do have a new provincial planning statement, but this application was received prior to that taking effect. So we are looking at it under the previous provincial policy statement, just so you know. So the property is located in the prime agriculture area, and 3 uses are permitted in this. So 1 is agriculture, 2 agriculture related, or 3 on-farm diversified uses. So the uses that are being proposed are not agriculture or agriculture related, and cannot be considered on-farm diversified. So the Huron County official plan, as well as the ACW official plan, state that non-agricultural uses in the prime agriculture area are not permitted, except for extraction of minerals or aggregate resources, and limited non-residential uses, provided that they're not infringing on specialty crop areas, they're meeting the minimum distance separation, and that alternative locations have been evaluated, and that there's no reasonable alternative locations to avoid this prime ag area. So the planning justification report that was provided as part of the complete application, it doesn't specify whether alternative locations were investigated in the surrounding settlement areas that could have provided for a more appropriate site. The ACW official plan outlines goals for each land use area. Included in the list of goals stated for agricultural areas are to limit non-farm development in the agriculture designation in support of a strong agricultural sector. And it is to give priority to agriculture uses over other uses in this prime ag area. The proposed uses do not serve to enhance or promote agricultural businesses, and therefore would not be permitted in the prime ag area. As noted, the contractor's yard, self-storage units, and residential development could all be accommodated in our other settlement areas. The PPS, Huron County official plan, and ACW official plan do not support the establishment of general residential, commercial, and industrial development in prime ag areas outside of settlement areas. There are serviced commercial or industrial parcels that could accommodate these contractor yards or self-storage units. There are also settlement areas in close proximity that could provide opportunity for a fourplex. The proposed construction on this property does not meet the policies or goals of the agricultural area within ACW, and the proposed uses do not align with the goals that have been established with the Huron County official plan or the ACW official plan. The proposed zoning bylaw amendment does not comply to the Planning Act. It is not consistent with the provincial policy statement and does not conform to either the Huron County or ACW official plan. So it is recommended that Council of the Township of ACW deny the zoning bylaw amendment application on the basis that it does not comply with multiple policy pieces. Okay. Are there any questions?
Thank you very much for that, Megan. Do we have any questions of the planner at this time? I think I'd rather go to the applicant at this time. If the applicant and or agent would care to make any comments at this time on this application. And if you do, please go to the microphone, introduce yourself, first and last name, and we would welcome your comments, please.
Okay. Thank you, Your Worship, and members of Council. I'm glad to have this opportunity to address Council this evening regarding this rezoning application. My name is Stuart Finlater. I'm the registered professional planner. I'm the principal owner of Finlater and Associates, Inc., land use planning consulting firms, which I established in January of 2020. Prior to that, I was employed for 35 years in the municipal field with Municipality of Thames Centre. I was the Director of Community Services and Development for the first 30 years, and I was the Chief Administrative Officer for the last 5 years. So I've sat on your side of the table, and now I'm on this side of the table. So I've reviewed the staff planning report from Megan, dated October 8th, and I just would like to respond and raise some issues with that report with council. So Metabide purchased this property on April 3rd, 2023, and Finlater Associates was retained to assist with the rezoning on this property to add the buildings and structures that Megan's already gone over. So I won't go over that again. We did prepare a planning justification report at that time, and that was about a year ago. And that was submitted along with the rezoning application on the merits of this proposal. Again, the subject lands are located on the east side of Blue Water Highway, north of the town of Godress, and comprise approximately 4.2 hectares, with a frontage of 91 meters and a depth of about 1,500 feet. The portion of the property that we're looking to rezone to add the proposed uses to the existing zoning exceptions comprise an area of about 2.1 hectares, or 5 acres at the front end of the property. As Megan indicated, there's no intention to do any development in or near the woodlot that's on the property. Basically looking at developing the area that was developed previously and the area that was used for the mini golf, and I believe some of that land was used at various times for crops, corn, mazes, and things like that, again, for recreational activities. The present zoning, AG4-6, permits a general store, a gasoline bar, a takeout restaurant, propane sales, and a miniature golf course. It also permits the sale of alcohol from the general store and one portable food outlet. Unfortunately, the property is currently in a state of disrepair and is vacant, as Megan pointed out. Mr. Desjardins and Metabide want to regenerate this site while also adding some much needed affordable housing to the existing building on the site. The subject lands have been clearly zoned AG-4-6 by the local municipality, and they've been utilized for non-agricultural uses for many years. These proposed additional uses do not in any way compromise or adversely affect any agricultural activities in the area. And I think that's, pointed out in terms of the comments from the agencies and the public. In my opinion, there was no major concerns raised by any of them. Megan went over them. I'll just go over them quickly again. The Maitland Valley Conservation Authority had no objections. The ACW staff indicated a site plan and development charge will apply. We're okay with that. County biologist had some general comments about naturalization of the stormwater management pond, no development within 15 meters of tree line, and recommended some culvert be located along the walking path. Again, no issues with that from my clients. We were asked by the county planning department when we first approached the municipality to get a traffic impact analysis for the MTO. So that was about an $8,500 study that Metabide undertook. They retained a professional engineering firm, Paradigm Transportation Solutions Limited, to complete that study. And it was submitted to the MTO, and the MTO are satisfied that the proposed development can function appropriately from a road access and traffic flow point of view, subject to the issues. Again, MTO has a few requirements, building permits and land use permits. And sorry.
If you could just wrap it up, if you could, please, sir.
Sorry.
If you could just wrap your comments up,
Okay.
there was 5 minutes allocated, and I should have said that at the outset. So
Okay, so my
please.
5 minutes start now. Anyway, okay, so again, so that study was completed at a fairly substantial cost to my clients, and it came out, positive from the MTO's point of view. So, although there's comments made about traffic issues being raised, the MTO, the people that look after that road and are responsible for that, have raised no issues with this proposed development. In terms of the Planning Act does not specifically address existing uses. All of these comments related to the official plan of the county and of ACW and the Planning Act are if a new activity was being located outside of a settlement area. These uses have been there for years. This property has been zoned for uses other than agriculture for years, and it can adequately be serviced by on-site services. We've had engineering studies to show that. The stormwater management's been designed appropriately, and there's no issue with access to the highway. So I would suggest to you that the municipality has already determined that this is an appropriate area for development by placing the AG 4-6 zoning on the subject lands that allow and promote commercial activities on the property. The existing dwelling is proposed to be converted from a duplex into a fourplex to address affordability issues. I don't see any concerns with health and safety in that, and this will provide affordable housing for the municipality. The PPS, Megan highlighted section 2.3.3.1 about permitted uses and activities in the primary agricultural areas, agricultural uses, agriculture related, and on-farm diversified uses. And the conclusion reached was that the proposed uses cannot be considered on-farm diversified use, presumably because the lands are not farmed, and that the uses can't be considered agriculture or agriculture related. Therefore, the planner suggests the proposal is not consistent with the PPS. We agree that the proposed uses are not agriculture. To that end, the subject lands are not an agricultural parcel. The subject lands have effectively been used for commercial, residential, and tourism for many years. The proposed redevelopment of these lands does not change those uses. It simply regenerates the site for a healthy and viable business to operate. And the proposed development is consistent with the policy. There's another policy in the PPS which wasn't mentioned in the report, which is section 2.3.6.1B, which permits non-residential uses in the primary agricultural area. So notwithstanding the fact I don't think this is a new use and needs to comply with that, in my opinion, it certainly does. There's 4 areas that need to be satisfied, and I believe that this development satisfies all of them. Again, as far as the Huron County and the ACW official plans, it provides policy directions for non-agricultural uses in primary agricultural areas. There's not a prohibition on this. It directs them to settlement areas, but it doesn't prohibit them from locating outside of settlement areas. And it's my opinion that this proposal conforms with both official plans. And again, just noting, the ACW plan does not prohibit non-farm development agriculture designation, but rather states it should be permitted limited non-farm development. That's what I would suggest this is. It's my opinion that the lands have been utilized and zoned by ACW for a variety of commercial and recreation uses for many years. So while technically they're located in a primary agricultural area and designation, and there may be a small area of land, approximately 1 hectare, that could be farmed, they have been zoned for non-agricultural uses for many years. I do not believe anyone would be of the opinion that someone could make a living off of farming a 1 hectare piece of land. Metabide is simply looking to take advantage of a market that is very much in need of self-storage units and to add some affordable housing to the area. And in my opinion, there are no anticipated negative impacts on any surrounding agricultural operations. For the reasons noted herein, it is my opinion that the proposed amendment has regard to the Planning Act, is consistent with the PPS 2020 and 2024, and is in general conformity with both the Huron County and the ACW official plan, and therefore I ask Council to approve the application as applied for. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Now I'll open it up to the public. This is a public meeting. Anyone is free to comment. Is there anyone that would like to speak in opposition to this application at this time? And if you do, please indicate your first and last name and your comments up to 5 minutes.
Okay, thank you. My name is Kim Brereton, and I'm the daughter of my parents, George and Jane Grabovi, who have the 40-acre parcel adjacent to this property. And I just have some concerns about what's proposed here, because they talk about a fourplex, and it sounds to me like they want to go short-term tenants, like an Airbnb, which has been known in many communities to cause trouble in the areas that they're proposed. The 2 buildings with the 4 units in them, I wonder what are going to be put in those 4 units. Are they for other businesses? We don't really know. Is it storage? Maybe for their business, that would be fine. But the big thing is the property has taken 4 years to get back to an certified organic state. And it's a beautiful piece of land. It's not really what this smaller parcel is, whether it's zoned agriculture or not. It's how it affects the area around it, you know? So we're talking about pollinators, we're talking about light pollution, we're talking about noise pollution, garbage, all of that kind of thing. It's nice that you can enhance your property the way you would like to do it, but there's also major, beautiful agriculture going on next door. And it takes a long time to get your property back to that. And it feeds so many people. You know, like I live in an area where there's clay, and up here, the soil is magical. I always joke that you could till it with a fork, you know, because it's just so beautiful. So, and I worry about the storm pond. Is it going to be contained? Is it going to leak? Is it going to leak onto the next property, onto our property? The storm drain, how large is it? Will there be a filter system that will prevent other unnecessary components to the water from leaking into the water supply? Because that stream trickles down through many properties and into the township or into the Point Farms Provincial Park. So, you know, it affects a lot of land filtering out to the lake, to Lake Huron. Also, the septic system, if a fourplex is proposed, yeah, I would think that would have to be upgraded. So, and I know if you're having four families living in a property, you know, I think that would have to be looked into. And I just worry about transient people coming and going, and maybe not long-term tenants. And I think that's pretty much it. It's major agricultural, it's beautiful land, and I just, you know, think we're all concerned about how it would affect the natural wildlife, deer, conservation, pollinators, all of that thing. And we really need, we need darkness there. We can't have lights on all the time, so. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you very much for your comments. Is there anyone else who would like to speak in opposition to this application at this time? Seeing none, is there anyone that would like to speak in favor of this application at this time? Not now. At the appropriate time, not now. Is there anyone else who would like to speak in favor? And if you do, please indicate your first and last name and provide your comments if you would, please.
Hi, I'm Jaden Desjardins. I am one of the owners of the property, and Jaden's mechanical. We strongly need this opportunity to grow our business as we have already in Blue Water. It was a very similar application. It's been very successful. It's been, you know, we've proven ourselves. 0 complaints from neighbors. For lights or anything along those lines, we stake to ourselves, and that's where we truly believe we belong, is out of town. We work long hours. We're service guys. We call in for emergencies. We're constantly making noise. We have scrap bins. You know, we can't have a scrap bin behind our property downtown Goderich. You know, it's not safe for children to, you know, jump into. To play in or anything along those lines. Have toilets left out, have water heaters hang out downtown, anything along those lines. So we've proven ourselves to be very successful outside of town, containing our scrap bins, containing our garbage. I actually personally live on the property with the lights. And it doesn't bother me at all. And it actually gives me kind of peace of mind that I can look out my window and see that nobody is intruding on my property. So, you know, it's reassuring that way. We are very strong, community supportive, a company. We constantly donate to charities, fundraisers, hockey teams, you name it. Every Christmas, we give a furnace away to a family in need of heat, because we know that the cost of water heaters, the cost of furnaces, everything, it's gone skyrocketing, along with affordable housing. So this is already a duplex. It's fairly easy to turn it into a fourplex. Obviously, we get proper architectural drawings that align with the building code, fire separations, heating separations, ventilation separations, you name it. We would be by the book. Obviously, it'd be a permitted solution. Obviously, a huge need in our area to bring that down, bring that cost down. Putting more things onto one property obviously helps that with the mortgage costs and whatnot. So what we do is we offset our mortgages with tenants along with in our contractor base. So for example, on a property now, we have Lakeside Gas. They store their gas meters there. They come in, they grab their meters, and they go install. South here in Windows and Doors, they grab their windows and doors in the morning and they go install. That's it. We occupy the other 2 units for our plumbing division and our electrical division. And this would be similar to that. We require one building ourselves. The other building would be for tenants. So there will really only be probably 4 tenants in there for the commercial side of things. So just wanted to introduce myself and kind of show you, who we are and what we stand for. And I truly think it'd be a great fit for us and help us grow our division north and help out the community in the north side of things. So thank you.
Thank you very much for your comments. Yep. Is there anyone else that would like to speak in favor of this application at this time? We're good? Okay. With that, I will now open it up to council to ask any questions that they may have of our planner on this application. And I will go first to Councillor Miltenberg, please.
Yeah, thanks, Megan, for yours and for the other gentleman whose name escapes me, who is a former planner. I don't have questions so much as comments. And the first one is I'm sorry, I'm just going to call you the former planner because you came here in 2023 and I've been here over 60 years. So this AG4 special zone was actually started residential and then became tourism. It was just a house, and then he got, the little sell the ice cream, and then he added that. So I would say that what was recreational tourism is now you're saying commercial industrial, and it might be under the same, but it isn't the same. And it certainly didn't start that way. Full disclosure, I'm a dairy farmer, although I got my first pig number when I was 16, so I've been a livestock farmer my whole life. And I have followed the MDS quite closely. It started in 1970, that is minimum distance separation for barns. It was updated in 76, 95, 2006. It actually didn't apply to the Planning Act until 2017, and it's just been updated. Currently, I believe it's 500 meters, but barns are getting bigger, and we don't know what the MDS is going to be in the future. So any talk of anything besides farming in farming land makes me nervous. And so I'd like to talk about a letter that was circulated by the Huron County Federation of Agriculture August 13th on our agenda. But it went to every municipal council in Huron County. It went to the county planning department. It went to the MP. It went to the Ministry of Agriculture, Food and Agribusiness. It went to the Minister of Rural Affairs. It went to the Ministry of Municipal Affairs and Housing. And it went to the OFA Board of Directions. Again, full disclosure, I am a member of the OFA. I will say we only switched 3 years ago. As a farmer, you are mandated to belong to one of 3, the NFU, the CFFO, or the OFA. 3 years ago, we switched to the OFA because of their advocacy, their work with children, and their work with safety. Having said that, I've never been on any board or any member or attended a meeting, but I am a member of the OFA. And this was circulated by our local council. And it's 3 pages long, so I will not read it. It is available online, and everyone here has seen it, at least everyone here. but I am going to read a couple things from it. It was in response to the Huron County overriding the PPS, the official plan, and the municipal plan, and they allowed residential lots within prime agricultural land. And at that point, they said the recent decision is clearly prohibited by the provincial policy statement and is contrary to the official plans of the County of Huron and the municipality. The official plans both had an opportunity for public consultation and therefore should be upheld as the consensus of the local population. And I think that's really important because these plans were set by open meetings just like this where the people said what they wanted. And what they said was they wanted the farmland protected. And so do I. After 3 pages, which again, I'm not reading to you, it says, hopefully we can make agriculture a priority and protect the land base and restrict incompatible neighboring uses against the agricultural zones that farming in Huron requires. We are seeking a commitment that councillors will continue to work with the planners to make this happen and direct non-agricultural uses to settlement areas. Well, I'm a councillor and I'm making that commitment to the Huron County Federation of Agriculture, in fact, to all my farmers and future farmers, that I would like development that is not farm related to go to non-settlement or into the settlement areas where it's zoned properly. And I think it's important for the future of farming, for future farmers, because there is one finite thing on this world and it's land. And once something leaves agriculture, it doesn't go back. And I think it's up to us to protect it. And I think you guys sound like a wonderful company and you have a wonderful planner, but it is on prime agricultural land. And I'd also like to make the statement that, just so no one is confused, going forward, if these come here against the official policy plan, I will be asking for a recorded vote every single time. So that I don't know if the council will agree or not, but if we look back in time and say, who did that? It's going to be not me, okay? And I'd also like it because we are a commenting agency only, that when it goes to Huron County, they see it as a recorded vote and they will stick and do their job and do the provincial policy statement rather than trying to do whatever a local wants to do. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Any other members of council have any questions of our planner? And I'll go next to Councillor Hickey and then to Councillor Snowblum, please.
Thank you. I hear the concerns from the neighbors about more traffic and more lighting. I'm not sure about the more traffic. If you consider when the store was in its prime and the mini golf was in its prime, it might not be in those same time of day, but I think there was a lot of traffic in there already. I understand the lighting concern overnight, whereas when it was a store in the mini golf, it was more office, or not office hours, but through the day more. But the comment of prime agriculture land, I agree around it is, but I don't think that specific property is. The front of that's been concrete, asphalt, and gravel for how many years? Like, you can't grow crop on that property. So if there's no crop grown on that property, like, what happens to it? Just let it overgrow and be abandoned? Or like, what's the property owner supposed to do with that land? I think the plans that are being presented here bring growth and families and economic development, which we talk about in this township, trying to bring industry, trying to bring jobs into this community. And I think all those are positive for it. And I'll be voting against the county and I'll support this. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for that. Councillor Snowblum, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. As much as I often agree with my esteemed colleague, Councillor Miltenberg, I am in agreement with Councillor Hickey on this. I see, and I do want to go on record as saying that I do advocate for protecting farmland. I also go on record by saying that even though some folks will say that once farmland is gone, it never comes back, I know for a fact that people in my family have reclaimed farmland. And there are other people that reclaim farmland, and that goes unnoticed oftentimes. The case here we are arguing about is, it just seems not much different than what was there for what I understand, 40 years. It's never been farmed for 40 years, so to protect it as farmland seems a little bit mind-boggling to me. It's my understanding there's about 2.5 acres of workable land there. And when I weigh that against what the benefits would be to having this company be located at this area, I see more benefits than I see having it stay as agricultural land that nobody's going to farm on for 2.5 acres. For a farmer to come in and farm 2.5 acres with big equipment, and we all know equipment is getting bigger, would be a very big challenge, not to mention the challenge of getting onto that field, traveling on 21 highway. It's very dangerous. Ask any farmer that travels 21 highway with big equipment. I see that Jayden Mechanical has done the exact same thing or a very similar thing in Blue Water Township, and quite successfully. I don't think we need to reinvent the wheel. I am certain that the provincial policy statement and the all the other policy statements that our planner has referred to would have been met when they dealt with this in Blue Water. So how is it different in ACW? I see there's many benefits to having a corporation coming in to ACW. I have also gone on record from the time I was first elected, prior to when I was elected, that I want to belong to a township that's progressive and meets the needs of the people that live here. And trying to make a living on 2.5 acres of farmland seems almost impossible to me, as opposed to putting a company up there that's going to bring business in, and as I understand it, does business with farmers, and also addresses the need for some storage units, which I understand are in high demand, but beyond that, affordable housing. I never heard anything from the company about an Airbnb. It's my understanding they're looking at helping to accommodate some residents that are in desperate need of housing. So those are my comments, Mr. Mayor. Thank you everyone for listening. And I, as well as I'll be following Councillor Hickey, and I will be not supporting the planner on this. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for that. Any additional questions or comments from any other members of council? Councillor Miltenberg, please.
Just a follow-up to Anita's question to the council, to the planner. How is this one different than the one in Blue Water? I have some other thoughts on her comments, but she asked that, so I'd like that answer. Thank you.
Okay, thanks. Anita, do you care to comment, please? Councillor Milton, or Councillor Snowblood?
I think it was directed to the
planner. Oh, I'm sorry that your question was directed to Megan. I misunderstood. I misheard. Thank you for that. Megan, please.
It's not much different than what was proposed in Blue Water, and the planning department recommended denial of that application as well.
Further?
Please continue.
Thank you. Anita, again, I often agree with you, but I would like to reiterate, I think the uses have left. No one's asking them to farm 2.5 acres, although it can be reclaimed apparently, but it was recreational and tourism before, and it could be again. And I think that the neighbors have valid concerns because nobody mini golfed at 2 in the morning clattering metal around. The hours at Point Farms were over at 8. And I know. And it was for a very long time. And what they're talking about is lights on all night and contractors and people coming in at all hours and disturbing pollinators, which protecting the farmland is not. MDS protects the neighbors of farmland as well. And that's specifically what I'd like to protect the farmland. So we can agree to disagree, but I agree with the planner still.
Okay, thank you for that. Deputy Mayor, please.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think this is a perfect spot for this particular I guess they're entrepreneurs. They're going to develop this. They're going to, I'm sure there'll be a fence around it so that we don't have kids and running in through there. And we're talking about Blue Water. Okay. I've been personally involved in some fourplexes in Blue Water, and they work perfect because some of these are retired farmers that go here and they live in these places, and these aren't going to be low-end houses. It's just the same as our school down here. Okay, we had 2 apartments put in there, and everybody was afraid that there was, because it's a school, it's out in the middle of nowhere. As you know, there's a whole bunch of junk around it, and they've worked out perfect. It's been a good place for these people to live, and I just think this is a good fit. So I will be voting in that direction. So thank you.
Thank you for that. Any other questions or comments? Councillor Forrester, please.
Okay, thanks, Glenn. I also concur with Bill, Evan, and Anita. The MDS doesn't apply here because you have the bluffs, you have the golf course, and you have Point Farms Provincial Park. So, and you can't make a living on 5 acres of land. So I think this is a perfect fit here. So I also deal with Conestoga Agra for the dairy end of things, and it's a similar situation. It's out in the middle of the country, and I'm sure they're banging and clanging around in the middle of the night doing service calls for everybody. So I have no problem with this. Thanks.
Okay, thank you for that. I'm just going to ask a question of our planner, and that is on the zoning. The current zoning doesn't permit these uses that are being proposed. Is that correct?
That is correct. It only allows for kind of the recreational uses that have been on it previously, but the commercial industrial parts of it are going to be new and added additionally to what is already permitted.
Okay, thank you for that. And is there any other, and it was commented that maybe it's not appropriate to have it in towns. Is there any other areas in our municipality that would be appropriate for this sort of proposal?
You know, we haven't looked at specific properties, but perhaps around the airport where there are already kind of industrial uses going on, close to that type of property.
And finally, are you aware, has there been any other interest on doing a similar proposal as far as storage or fourplex or whatever on this property in the past, or is this the first time this interest has come up?
Yeah, so on this property specifically, there hasn't been any other interest, but there has been a lot of interest in the municipality, and the answer has always been a resounding no, that it's not a permitted use in the agricultural area.
Okay, thank you for that. Yeah, Councillor Miltenberg, please.
I can see where this is going, so I have some very much concerns, because if I were the neighbor sitting in the corner and everybody keeps talking about the lights on all night and how it's too noisy for in the town and people are banging and clanging, I'd be getting even more and more nervous. This is not making me feel any better. I was at the Municipal Ag Forum several years ago in Leamington, and there was a lot of greenhouses going up, about 200 acres per year, and they were struggling to stay up with the zoning and that on it because they were in agricultural land. There was no restriction for noise, sounds, lights, and dust. Is that what's going to happen with this because it's AG4 and we're permitting these uses on it, or they're being permitted if it goes through? Will there be restrictions on sound, light, dust? Can they clang all night? Can they have lights on all night? That's a question for the planner, please.
Megan, please.
We are hoping that through the site plan agreement that would not be the case, but noise and dust studies have not been done, only a traffic impact study. So there is the potential that that could be the case.
Okay, follow up, please.
So since it appears that there are a lot of counselors who are going to support that, what kind of scrap of hope are we going to give the neighbors? Can we build sound and light and dust and noise into site planning so that it's okay to live next door to this spot that they don't want to put next to anybody else?
Thanks for the question. Megan, please.
Yeah, so through the site plan bylaw that ACW has approved, there are certain restrictions that we can put on. We can do lights. I don't believe noise is in there. And we will, you know, along with Joy as our chief building official, if it is approved, then we will do everything we can that site plan will allow for.
Okay, thank you. Yep, please, yep.
Is it the fact that it's AG4 will make it hard to legislate that on that?
Megan, please.
No, because it is still subject to site plan control no matter what the zoning is. It is the use that triggers site plan.
So basically what we're telling the next door neighbors with their 40-year organic certified farm is we may be able to help them with lights. And I'm assuming we're talking not lights on all the time, which are reassuring perhaps for the owner, but not so much for the guy next door, that you could maybe have them motion censored. Would we be able to restrict hours of operation like you do at factories or things like that? Or can people come in at any time of the night and drop their scrap loads and pick them up? Would that be something you can control by site plan?
Thanks for that. Megan, please.
Not necessarily, but in the traffic impact study, it did say that they were not going to be coming and going from the site at all hours. So perhaps that is amenable to the neighbors, but it is, again, not something that we can regulate.
Additional question or comments?
So the comment is that although this site has not been farmed for 40 years and it really sounds like it may have an impact on farms next door, we're still okay with it, just so we're all aware of that. Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any other additional questions, Councillor Hickey, and then Councillor Snoblin, please.
I have a comment and then a question for the applicant, if that's allowed. Comment is, I don't think contractors as a rule come all hours of the night unless it's a tornado or whatever it is. I don't think you're going to see electricians and plumbers working at 2 o'clock in the morning as a rule. That's my comment. Question is, you're hearing the concerns from your neighbors. Do you have any feedback for council here on the light and the noise off hours?
No, please go to the microphone if you would, please. And just indicate your first and last name again and your comment response, please.
Jaden Deschardin. So for the lighting portion of it, you've seen the site plan where the 4-base shop, I believe this property is to the north that we're discussing mainly, correct? Yeah. So there's a 4-base shop there that the lights actually face into my property, or would face into my property, not to their property, shielding them that way. And like you said, you know, we're not running 24/7. We're available 24/7. You know, there's four members on staff to do the whole county. You know, it's not like we're coming in and out 24/7 at all. It's strictly emergency based, no heats, emergency floods, stuff like that. Where the tech may not even come to the site or come to the shop rather. They may just go straight to the site to deal with that person's issue at that time. So it's not going to be intrusive. Like I said, I got neighbors now. I'm not intrusive at all for noise at night at any means, or we're trying to do that at all. We're actually trying to help people at night. We're not trying to disturb anybody. It's emergency basis only. As for the lighting and dust control, in the site plan, we do have a chain link fence down the north and the south side of the property. And we could put some sort of deterrent on there for light and for dust or any control on that end. We could definitely put something into place for sure.
Thank you for your response. You're good at that, Councillor Hickey. Councillor Snowblen, please.
My questions and comments were going to be very similar to Councillor Hickey's, but I would like to mention in response to Councillor Miltenberg that we have residential areas, settlement areas that noise bylaws are constantly being infracted upon, and we're struggling with that. I don't see that this is going to be to the same level as even that. So I guess, like Councillor Hickey, I don't see electricians and plumbers working at 2 in the morning and clanging. As someone who's had a furnace breakdown once on Christmas Eve and another time in the middle of winter, it was quite comforting to know that there was a plumbing company very close by, fixed it very quickly. So having it in the north end of the county and the north end of in ACW, I think is a plus for some of the residents here that might eventually need to have such a service, especially being so close by.
Perfect. Thank you. Any other questions or comments? I think we're ready to move forward. And I would like to indicate that if a person or public body files an appeal of a decision of ACW Township in respect to the proposed rezoning, but does not make written or oral submissions before the proposed rezoning is adopted, the Ontario Land Tribunal, or in brackets OLT, may dismiss all or part of the appeal. So as we have heard, it is the recommendation of the planner to deny this application as it does not comply with the Planning Act, not consistent with the PPS, and does not conform to the Huron County official plan of the AC and the ACW official plan. So stating that, I'm open to the direction of council if you would have a sentiment for a motion to either deny or approve. I would entertain that at this time. Councillor, I saw Councillor Blake first.
Thank you. I would like to make a motion to approve the application as presented.
Do we have a seconder for that? And that is Councillor Hickey. Do we have further discussion? Councillor Miltenberg, please.
Could I have a recorded vote, please?
Absolutely. I will now turn it over to the clerk.
All right, just bear with me while I set this up.
Yep.
So just for clarification, there is a zoning bylaw amendment itself that will be considered after this. So if the motion is defeated, then we'll deal with that part after. But this is the motion to approve it. Okay. So the motion has been moved by Councillor Blake, seconded by Councillor Hickey, that Ashfield-Colborne-Wawanosh Township Council approve zoning bylaw amendment application Z 2024-03 Medibide Holdings Inc. Councillor Blake. Councillor Forrester.
Yeah.
Please make sure you use your microphone.
I can't hear.
Yeah. So I'll start that again. So Councillor Blake.
Yes.
Councillor Forrester.
Yes.
Councillor Deputy Mayor Vanstone.
Yes.
Councillor Miltenberg.
No.
Councillor Hickey.
Yes.
Councillor Snowblen.
Yes.
Mayor McNeil.
Yes.
The motion carries.
Okay, thank you for that. And Megan, I'm going to call on you to recommend to us the effect of public and agency comments on this decision, please.
The effect of public and agency comments is 5A, and public comments were received not in favor of the application. Comments were thoroughly considered, but the effect did not influence the decision of council to approve the application. And 5B, Comments were received from agencies identifying an issue of establishing residential, commercial, and industrial development in the prime agricultural area outside of the settlement. Comments were thoroughly considered, but the effect did not influence the decision of council to approve the application.
Okay, thank you for that. So it has been recommended that the effect of public and agency comments on this decision be 5A and 5B, and I'll ask for a show of hands if council is in support of this. And that is supported by council. Thank you. I would also like to comment that the process following this public meeting is that this is a public meeting, not a council meeting. Therefore, a decision of council may or not be made today. If the bylaw is passed, the clerk must send notice of the passing of the bylaw to all persons and public bodies prescribed and to any person or public body that has requested it. There is a 20-day objection period from the time notice of passing has been sent, where submissions will be received by the clerk. If an objection is received, an appeal is lodged with the Ontario Land Tribunal, in brackets OLT, and the municipality no longer has jurisdiction of the file and or the processing time. You may only file an appeal if you have submitted oral or written comments prior to the decision of council. The fee for filing an appeal is $1,100, payable by certified check or money order in Canadian funds made out to the Minister of Finance, and must be accompanied by appellant form in brackets A1. If council does not pass the bylaw, the applicant may appeal to the OLT. If the bylaw is passed and no objections are received within the 20-day appeal period, the clerk will certify that the bylaw is in force and effect as of the date of its passing, and notice is forwarded to the planning department and to the applicant. And with that, I would entertain a mover and a seconder to close our public meeting. Councillor Blake and Miltenberg, all in favor of the motion. And that is carried. And I would now entertain a mover and a seconder to reconvene our regular council meeting. Councillor Hickey and Forrester, all in favor of this motion. And that is carried. We're now going to enter into our Committee of Adjustment, so I would entertain a mover and a seconder to adjourn our regular council meeting and open the Committee of Adjustment to review minor variance application MV 2024 Wilkins. Councillor Miltenberg and Snoblin, all in favor of this motion. And that is carried. I thank you. Am I going too slow? Yes, we are. I'd like to call the Committee of Adjustment meeting to order and ask if any members of council have a pecuniary interest or potential conflict of interest on this agenda item that we have in our Committee of Adjustment agenda. Seeing none, I thank you. We will be discussing the minor variance application file Wilkins, and our county planner now will review this application with the Committee of Adjustment. Please, Megan.
Hey, good evening again. We have a minor variance application for the property located at 36588 Belgrave Road. Here you can see the property outlined in orange. There is an existing house. I don't know if you can see my cursor. Down closer to Belgrave Road, we have an existing pig barn running this way. And you will notice that there are 2 wind turbines on this property already. Here we have a photo of the property from the road. You can see multiple turbines in the background. That was just a drive-by shot of the property itself. So here we have a map of the subject property outlined in orange. The neighboring property outlined in yellow is also in the same ownership. The farm is run as one conglomerate, but it is 2 separately conveyable parcels, which is where we're running into a bit of a discrepancy here. So the barn, whoops, sorry. So here is the proposed new barn. You'll see it running kind of perpendicular to the existing barn. It is proposed to use the same laneway, the same hydro, water, all of the servicing will be run in close proximity to where the existing barn is. The existing wind turbine down here in the corner, the requirement is to be 150 meters from a wind turbine. It is the height plus the distance of the blades, so we're at 150. The proposed setback is to be about 100 meters. And then the side lot line, the requirement from minimum distance separation when we ran the numbers is that it has to be 30 meters from any lot line. That is also in our zoning bylaw, so the numbers are the same. And this is kind of where we are finding that the setback from this lot line is proposed at 5.5 meters, where 30 meters is required, recognizing that this is operated as one farm, but it is two separately conveyable parcels and may not always be in the same ownership. So this is why we're talking about it today. The owner has already gone through a limiting distance agreement. So this will allow for the fire and building separation. So nothing can be built within 100 feet of the barn. That if you are so inclined to approve the minor variance, the limiting distance agreement will come to you at a later date for your consideration. So no comments were received as part of this application. ACW staff did note that that limiting distance agreement would be required and it will be on title if approved. Planning comments, so it's really just the setbacks to the lot line that we're concerned with. You know, if in the event these two lots were not run under one farm ownership, then that's where we kind of run into this issue. So being that it is a 5.5 meter setback from a 30 meter setback that is required, it's not really deemed minor. So it is my recommendation that the Council of the Township of Ashfield-Colborne-Wawanosh deny the minor variance application on the basis that it's not minor in nature and it does not meet the intent of the official plan or the zoning bylaw setbacks and the required distance between minimum distance separation.
Thank you very much for that, Megan. Again, I would entertain any comments from the public. Is there anyone that is opposed to this application that would like to speak at this time? Seeing not, is there anyone that would like to speak in favor from members of the public of this application at this time? Sure, a member of the public, yeah, and then the applicant will have an opportunity. Okay, so I don't see any members of the public, so I'll now ask the applicant if he would care to make any comments at this time. Please introduce yourself, first and last name, and your comments up to 5 minutes.
So it's Matthew Wilkins, and I'm the owner and applicant of this project. First, I would like to list the reasons why we're putting this barn where it is. The main reasons are the MDS setbacks for residential. We have to be 2,240 feet or a little bit less than that from the houses proposed on either side of my property. The lay of the land and logistics, water, drainage from this barn because we can't put tile around it. The best use of ag land, and our major requirement is hydro. Water, hydro, and logistics are the main concerns. Moving the barn closer to the 30-meter MDS lot line is going to cause major conflict is for off-source grid power for generators and pumping water in large volumes. We did look at merging the farms. The property to the east has been in our family name for since it's bought from the Crown, 1856, and the property to the west has also been in the family for 60 years. It's bought in the late 60s. We have no desire to sell or split either of these farms. The other reason we're not looking at merging these two properties is for property value. You get a higher property value on separate parcels of land, and that also helps us with borrowing power. You can borrow money from FCC or any financial institute per property piece. The other issues we ran into are solar contracts and wind contracts and just basic feasibility. These farms were separated, I think, in 2014. They were severed, and now we're talking about putting them back together. I already have an agreement with K2 and Axiom to move forward if the permit is issued, and we are willing to apply for an application to consolidate. The only problem with this is it's just that paper that makes it more difficult to sell farms, but it actually isn't legally binding, and it'll leave that severance line in place. That's all I have.
Okay, thank you very much for your comments. And now I'm going to open it up to council if you have any questions of our planner on this application. I'll go first to Councillor Miltenberg, please.
Yeah, I actually know this farm very well. I used to own a farm that used to abut it before Matt owned it, and I used to walk back there all the time on the hydro roads. I'm guessing that the reason you don't swing the barn so it's the same as that other, there's a third turbine in the way, right? Like you have them perpendicular, and you wouldn't be running into that one if it went that way. Is it because of the third one? Is that what you're
Actually, the biggest issue is the MDS setback from the houses. We can put it back the farm further. You just run into the same water and hydro issues. And I still have to get, no matter where I put it on that farm, I have to get setbacks from the K2 wind turbines. The only other place that may go is laying right in the lowest spot of the farm where the water all runs, which is probably not the best spot for liquid manure.
Do you have a follow-up, Councillor Miltenberg?
Yeah, but it's not to Matt.
Oh, that's fine. No to our planner.
Yeah. Yeah, normally I hate to go against the planner because I generally agree with her, but I do know this farm very well, and I know how long it's been in that family. The 3 meter on the lot line, even though I understand that doesn't bother me as much as the 150 to the 100. And the reason I'm saying that is because there was such an outcry when these turbines were built that there had to be 150 meters, and Matt will remember this, because what if it fell over and it fell on a barn? And then wouldn't that be, well, not ideal, certainly. And I know we've had no issues, nor do I expect any issues. But to say deliberately do that and then something happens, are we putting ourselves in a liability situation? Because we're the ones who established the 150 meters, if I'm correct.
Okay, Megan, please.
Sorry, the digging. Yeah, so the reduction is about a 30% reduction, which is still deemed minor. And for all of the reasons that Matt has suggested, that's what we looked at when we were reviewing the application as well. And that there really isn't a better location for the barn to be on the property. The existing barn is actually closer to the turbine than what is being proposed. It just kind of comes down to this weird technicality that there is a lot line between the two properties.
Okay, thank you for that. Follow-up, Councillor Miltenberg?
Well, then if the real concern is the lot line, and I understand why you unmerge them, and I understand why you don't want to merge them, I actually don't have an issue with that, and I would support this application.
Okay, thank you for that. Any other additional questions or comments? I'm going to ask, I'm going to make a comment, and that is I am concerned about the lot line. When it is that close at 5.5 meters, we don't know what the future holds. And with that property right beside it, it could enter into other ownership in the future. We don't know that. And that concerns me. I struggle with this. Deputy Mayor, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you for bringing that topic up because that was something in my mind has been for a while, is that why, as a council, are we trying to think what's going to happen in the future? We are here to make a decision on the present, not on the future. Like I haven't got a crystal ball. I don't know what's going to happen to that land in 100 years' time or 50 years' time. I think this council should look at the present, not try to figure out what's going to happen in the future. And I just think that it's a good fit for that barn to be where it is and the two properties to stay as they are. So I thank you for that.
Okay, thank you. Any other additional questions or comments? Councillor Miltenberg, please.
Sorry, I hate to do this. Bill, even though we agree, I disagreed with your reasoning. I think that we're here as council to make decisions for the future. We can't just look at today, and we don't have a crystal ball, but we have to make our best guess. But we agree on the same thing. We just both got there a different way.
Okay, cool. Any other additional questions or comments? And if not, we do have a motion, a suggested motion, to deny this application due to the large reduction in the side lot line setback. It does not meet the test of being minor in nature or desirable or the appropriate development of the lands in question, and it also does not meet the intent of the official plan or zoning bylaw to provide adequate distance between property lines and the minimum distance separation MDS requirements. Is there a mover and a seconder for this motion? Yes, is there a mover and a seconder to deny? Councillor Miltenberg, please.
I'd like to make a motion to accept.
Okay,
Or
so
do we have to do
no,
the other things?
we'll get there. We'll get there.
We have to do the deny first?
Yes.
No,
Clerk?
No, we do not have to do the deny. There was no mover. So in principle, somebody who moves it has to agree with the motion that's being presented. So nobody raised their hand, so nobody wants to deny it. So there's no motion on the floor.
Would you care for a motion for approval?
Yes, I do need one for a notice of decision, yes.
And that would be Councillor Miltenberg
Yes.
and Forrester, that this application be approved. Any further questions or comments?
Sorry, can
Yep. I'm sorry?
I would just like clarification. Who moved that? It was
Miltenberg and Forrester.
and Forrester. Thank you.
Okay, and comment or question, Councillor Miltenberg?
Based on your comment, I would like to ask the planner, let's say 30 years from now, they do want to sell one and we have put it on the lot line. How does that impact the future?
Thanks for the question. Megan, please.
So with the limiting distance agreement that is on title, no other structure will be able to be built within 100 feet of that structure. So it does restrict the neighboring property, but that is our best efforts at protecting, the existing building and any potential future building.
Okay, thank you. And a follow-up, please.
So the fact that it's registered on title means that the buyer would be aware of that when they purchased it. Is that correct?
Megan, please.
That is the hope, yes.
With due diligence. Okay,
Yes.
thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions or comments? We have a motion for approval. All in favor of the motion? Opposed? That is carried. Thank you. Thanks, Megan.
We need the effective public and agency comments, please.
Okay, do you have a comment for us, Megan, on the effect of public and agency comments in this decision, please?
So the effective public and agency comments is 2A. No public comments were received on this application, so there was no effect on the decision. And 5B, comments were received from agencies identifying the issues of proximity to a lot line for long-term compatibility concerns. Comments were thoroughly considered by council, but the effect did not influence the decision to approve the application.
Thank you for that. So the recommendation on the effect of public and agency comments is 2A and 5B, and I'll ask for a show of hands from council if we are in support of this. And that is supported by council. Thank you, and thank you very much for that, Megan. And now I will entertain a mover and a seconder to close the public meeting, the Committee of Adjustment, please. Councillor Miltenberg and Hickey, all in favor of this motion. And that is carried. Thank you. I'll just give the clerk a moment. And now I will entertain a mover and a seconder to reconvene our regular council meeting. Councillor Blake and Deputy Mayor Vanstone, all in favor of the motion. And that is carried. Thank you. Under 4.1, it is a plan of subdivision of High Ridge Holdings Limited, and it is recommended by our planner for approval of this application. Megan, do you have any comments to us on this application, please, at this time?
Good evening, everyone. Tonight we have a draft plan of subdivision before you. It was submitted for the purposes of developing lands in Port Albert for residential purposes. So here you can see the location of the vacant piece of property. It's bounded by Russell Street to the north. There is Lakeshore Development to the west. The Victoria Street drain is to the south. And a relatively newer subdivision that was approved a few years ago, 9 Mile to the east. The property is currently designated village in the ACW official plan, and it is zoned VR1 with a holding symbol. So at the time of approval, the holding symbol will come off of it, but just making sure that the development moves forward appropriately, that holding symbol will stay on it until all of the development agreements are approved and such. The subject lands are approximately 6.5 acres or 2.6 hectares in size. And here you'll see a proposal of the lot layout. So they are proposing to create 11 residential lots, as well as 1 municipal street, which will be Colborne Street, which does the elbow, and Arthur Street will be constructed in conjunction with the 9 Mile subdivision as well. Access to the subdivision will be provided off of Russell Street through Arthur Street, and Colborne Street will have a cul-de-sac that terminates just north of the drain. The subdivision will be serviced through private water and septic, given that there are no municipal services in the area at the time, and stormwater is proposed to be directed towards the Victoria Street drain. So we didn't have any public comments from neighbors. There were a number of agencies that did comment, Canada Post, Enbridge Gas, Bell, Hydro One. They all put conditions into the draft conditions that were attached to my report. Historic Saugeen Métis reviewed the draft plan of subdivision, and they had no objection or opposition to the proposed development. Maitland Valley Conservation Authority was also a commenting agency. They reviewed it with regards to the natural hazard, and they resolved that the geotechnical investigation that was done satisfies that the development will be outside of their erosion hazard. As for the Victoria Street drain, they did put an extra setback from that drain just for flooding hazards concerns. So when we review a subdivision, there are 13 criteria under the Planning Act. I won't go through all of them. I did in my report, but they were all met through the review. The PPS directs residential development to occur in designated settlement areas, such as Port Albert. So the lands for the proposed development are presently vacant, and within that settlement area, they are zoned for residential development to occur with that holding symbol taken off eventually. The development will not negatively impact ecological systems, agricultural resources, or natural resources. It does not negatively impact ecological systems. The absence of full municipal infrastructure available to service this subject land does limit the range of housing that we can offer here. But, you know, single family residential is kind of in keeping with the neighborhood as well. This is the highest level of intensification and density that we can go with in this area. So it is recommended that the Council of the Township of Ashfield-Colborne-Wawanosh support Plan of Subdivision 40T 23001 with the attached conditions and forward the application to the County of Huron for draft plan approval.
Thank you very much for that. It has been recommended that we approve this, and I'm going to open it up to members of council for any questions or comments, and I'll go first to Councillor Miltenberg, please.
Yeah, I have a couple questions, maybe concerns about this. And it stems back to when we started talking about the Port Albert Master Plan. There were a lot of concerns brought forward. One of them was walkability, because with improved roads and paved, they get a lot more traffic and a lot faster traffic. And I know we had that same concern at was that Saltford Heights or whatever it is, that one up there. And we talked about wider roads or walking paths or sidewalks. We also talked about why are we taking money in lieu of green space? And the one up at Saltford, we had them redo it and put green space up there so it would be more community-like. And I know one of the concerns in Port Albert is people like the green spaces, which, you know, they aren't there, so they do get to be developed, but we are taking away green space. So is there a green space nearby since we're taking one away there? Or shouldn't we be thinking about asking them to actually create a green space, take one of the lots and make a green space like we did in Saltford Heights? I'm just wondering about the direction of council, because to me, it's no different than the one we just did at Saltford.
Okay, thanks for that. Megan, do you have a comment, response, please, to that comment?
Sure. With the location of the property itself, it was thought that the walkability to the green space along the lakeshore was appropriate. The Victoria Street drain, like, it's more of a road allowance there, that will not be developed. So yes, in short, cash in lieu has been suggested for this property.
Okay, thank you. Follow up, please, Councillor Miltenberg.
And the width of the road has no need of sidewalks? It's not a, is there going to be race traffic going down there?
Megan, please.
I certainly hope there won't be race traffic going down there. But so it is the township standard that is being adhered to in this case. Sidewalks were not suggested by our Public Works Department.
Exactly. So it'll be to the municipality standards.
Right.
A follow up, please.
So I see on this plan of subdivision, it looks like they've met our standards, but haven't we talked about improving those standards before? About making it more walkable and less suburban-like?
Megan, please.
Yeah, and so those standards have not been updated as of yet. So it is, you know, at the whim of council that if that is something that you would like to see moving forward, that is something that I can provide feedback on. And but currently, right now, it is meeting township standards.
Right. Okay. Any other questions or comments? We do have a recommended motion that I will entertain a mover and a seconder that Ashfield-Colborne-Wawanosh Township Council support plan of subdivision 40T 23001 with the attached conditions and forward to the application to the County of Huron for draft plan approval. A mover and a seconder for this, please. Deputy Mayor Van Stone and Councillor Forrester. All in favor of the motion? And that is carried. Thank you very much. Would you like to address 4.2, please, Megan, the PPS statement, please? It's for information of council.
So I had alluded to the new provincial planning statement that has come into effect October of 2024. So some of the changes that we'll see, it's not too much will affect ACW. They have put in there more things about additional residential units. ACW has done a really good job with the most recent update. We're already ahead of that curve. We're allowing additional residential units on farm properties in our villages where it's appropriate, where the sizing will allow for. So that type of policy change won't be necessary because we're already there. We have planning growth. So to expand settlement boundaries, they have changed the requirements for expanding settlement boundaries. Before, it was quite onerous. There was a lot of technical reports that were required. A lot of people would say red tape. They have reduced quite a bit of that. It still needs to be done in an appropriate manner and, you know, recognizing where things should grow, not just willy-nilly, but the requirements have been lessened for that as well. One thing that you might hear me speak more about is agricultural systems approach and having an agricultural report done. It could be part of our planning justification report that we already ask for, but it will be more agriculture related. So that's very strong in the new PPS. It says it is now required instead of just encouraged. So we will be looking at that. You'll probably hear me talk more about that in upcoming reports, kind of the impacts that whatever development we're talking about will have on agriculture and agricultural systems as a whole. So that's kind of the new things that you'll see. Are there any questions specifically? Those are kind of the things that ACW will see more often.
Okay, thank you for that. Any questions or comments of Megan on anything? Okay, thank you for that. Would you like to address us on 4.3, the delegated consents, please? Council has delegated authority to Mark for consents that are undisputed. So we did have one of those. It was approved in September. We had a surplus farm severance. So that has been passed and gone through. And if there are any questions on that one. Thank you very much for that. Councillor Miltenberg, please.
Just a question on process. So randomly you will come forward and say this is what's happened in the past in delegated consents. Is that how it works?
Megan, please.
Absolutely. I will tell you all of the good news things too.
Yeah. Okay. Perfect. That's for information at council also. Thank you very much for that. And thanks, Megan, for all your information for us this evening. With that, I would like to address our bylaws. And is it okay to go around the room with everyone? So it'd be moved by, this is bylaw number 5.1, and that's the Medibide Holdings, Inc. Moved by Deputy Mayor Vanstone, seconded by Councillor Snoblin, that leave be given to introduce bylaw number 67-2024, being a bylaw to amend the zoning. Bylaw 32-2008 for the Township of Ashfield-Colborne-Wawanosh, and that are now be read severally, a first, second, and third time, and finally passed this 12th day of November 2024. All in favor of this motion? And that is carried. And it would be moved for the confirmatory bylaw by Councillor Hickey, seconded by Councillor Miltenberg, that leave be given to introduce bylaw number 76-2024, being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of the Township of Ashfield-Colborne-Wawanosh Council meeting held on November 12th, 2024, and that it now be read severally a first, second, and third time and finally passed this 12th day of November 2024. All in favor of this motion? And that is carried. And it would be moved to adjourn by Councillor Forrester, seconded by Councillor Blake, that Ashfield-Colborne-Wawanosh Township Council does now adjourn to meet again on the 19th day of November 2024 at 9 a.m. or at the call of the mayor. All in favor of this motion? And that is carried. Thanks very much to all.
Thanks. Have a good night, everybody.
Good night, Anita.
Take care, Anita.